Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so like, okay, with Brexit, I'm trying to remember how that kind of came about. Like, what was the liberal position on that? Because the conservatives, the liberals wanted to stay in the EU. Right, right. Because you said what happened was the whole Brexit discourse became about yeah, it became about immigration when it really wasn't about immigration, and that was the rhetoric they were using. Hmm. 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 There's a demand. Hmm. Oh, okay. Hmm. So I guess with Brexit, I guess we needed to inform the conservatives, hey, this isn't an immigration issue at all. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's more so maybe they shared some social values, but politically wise, conservatives are a lot less authoritarian. Like you said, that's more fascist. X-Men. Oh yeah, yeah. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Because it's too authoritarian. It's not as interdependent. Exactly. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you mentioned this. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of history behind it. Yeah. I see. Yeah. So, but unfortunately, because of that, they ended up voting for the respective candidates. Yeah, you mentioned this. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the people who voted, a group of people who voted for the for Brexit, they had this mentality that we'll be an empire again. Exactly. So like, so is because I'm trying to think. Well, how would you, let's say, for lack of better words, change their vote? How would you bring enlighten them? Would you have to inform them like, hey, man, here's a picture of our navy. There is no navy. Yep. Mm-hmm. 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 So are you claiming that they're like clinically insane or delusioned at this point then? Since you can't get through to them? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because that's the trick I'm trying to tap into. Because I like the way you phrased it, and I think this applies to multiple groups. Multiple groups have a sort of delusion, but it doesn't affect their everyday lives. Hmm. You just don't know. Hmm. Yeah, like I could see maybe, let's say for the older generation in England or in Britain that voted for Brexit, um, because they grew up in a different era where that worldview was valid, but it didn't update with the time. Yes. Yes. Hmm. But just that recognition was so small. Hmm. Be grateful. Absolutely. I mean, Trump has Twitter. Well, not anymore. Yeah. 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 Yes. Uh, yeah. So I'm thinking. I forgot the context, but here in America, there's the KKK. Yeah. And there's this African American who's been going around talking with leaders, and eventually, yeah, he converts them, and whole chapters have dissolved. So I'm just trying to think, because the same thing we said earlier. Certain groups have specific or their respective delusions. It looks to me he's trying to confront that delusion on a much smaller scale. So it's like, here's a black man in real life that you like, and over time, it's like they have to deal with that cognitive dissonance in their head, and then they have to update their view. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Hmm. Yeah, at some point, just gotta admit it. So that's their only sense of community, or their primary source. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, so I guess what we need is just like you said, just a positive version of that, like the Man Scouts or something. Who cares? Call it what you want. Hmm. Exactly. It's just because your claim would be that they had so much structure before. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it's a very giant chasm right there. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. It's it's like civilian training. That's a really good idea. Yeah. Yeah. So, um, all right. So we said with, let's say, extreme conservatives like racists, like the KKK guy, one way to defeat the delusions, like you said, is also it's individual to individual. It's just having them confront that, and that's one way to deal with conservatives because they'll have like a grand narrative, but you need to contradict it on a small scale. What would be? Do you think that that's a good description? Oh no, like it would be like for example I would go out volunteer myself because like I said, it's not good to do it forced. It has to be of the person's free will. Yeah, just like, do you mean like, for example, a boy's aggression instead of stopping playtime, use it in a positive way, the aggression in a positive way? Yeah, yeah, you will. Mhm. Because they're so agreeable. Hmm. Yeah, that works. Okay. Yeah, so we're talking about basically, just to broadly speak, you have like the extreme left and the extreme right. But every extreme version of a group has a certain like grand delusion, like a worldview that's not, it's not accurate to reality. And we're trying to think of a way. Well, how would you change a person's mind, or how would you lead them the right way? And one example was one of this here in America. You have the KKK, and there was a black man that would communicate or start talking with some of the members and would convert them to get out. And eventually, he, because of his work, entire chapters would get dissolved. Um, so yeah, so I was just asking George, like, well, let's say like a fascist, or let's say someone in Brexit, because that's how we started. Someone who voted for Brexit that's extremely nationalist, and they're under this delusion, yeah, for the empire. How would you create that cognitive dissonance? Like, hey, you're not the empire you were before, and this isn't really helpful to you. How do you go about change? I want to be careful, like updating that person's perspective, because you can't really force them. It's not like read this book, change your mind. This is reality. Yeah, not that effective, or at least, yeah, or even that. Like you could have like Facebook arguments, say people on opposite sides, and you could say, "Here's a link to this news article." Well, that's fake news, or here's this statistic. So it's like, well, how do we? What's the right way to update people? And like something George said is like, you need to do it individual to individual. And I think that's where you start. But yeah, I think that's, I don't know what like line of questioning you would talk with someone else. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Wait, what? I've never heard this before. I guess. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Move on. Because why not? Yeah, it's like someone goes into the hospital with a broken leg, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, we need to address this state of them thing before we fix your leg. It's like some people. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, we're making a difference. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, through their lens. Dun dun dun. Yeah. So with so in trying to, let's say, convince an extremist of any kind, the only solution I can come up with is to sort of become friends with them. So they could so it's kind of like you lead by example. So like just like the black man with the KKK, it's like let me just hang out with these guys and they'll see like, well, what issue do I really have with black people? This guy's completely normal. And you kind of see this in some movies or TV shows. You'll take a city person and they go to the country and they're like, wow, these country values of hard work and this different lifestyle has its merits. And you see it vice versa. You go to the city and, people switch roles. You see the merits of the other side. And to me, that seems to be the best way, maybe the only way to really connect with other people. I think maybe to get them out of that narrative. They actually have to like put themselves in someone else's shoes and be. So the only way is for like someone like ourselves, like myself. You have to go out of your way to be friendly and befriend that person. Yeah. Yeah. Oh God. That would be a great. That would be a great satire, like a clan member coming home and like, I'm so tired. I hate this guy. I hate this guy. So much energy. Yeah, it could be anything, like anarchist, extremist, or it's in every dimension. Paper pen.
Well, I was just gonna ask. We should probably think about food soon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, you can do your thing.
Okay. But yeah, as soon as
It's
it's
something
done.
to.
Food. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of universal. The same way you, when we don't know how to handle a kid, when we don't know how to handle criminals, when we don't know how to handle these extremists, then it's like time out or imprison them. When we can't get through to them through reason, it's like, well, here's the next best thing we can do. Yeah, it's kind of like with Trump and the fake news. Anything that comes against you, that can't be real. There's always like an answer for that. Yeah, like it's definitely contextual. 'Cause I think just a quick hypothetical. Some people, there's a difference between someone who lives in the Middle East, or let's say someone lives in a third world country, maybe in Africa or even here in America, struggling to survive, and let's say a military group or an extreme group comes to you, adopts you essentially, gives you food and stuff, nourishes you, a community. It's hard to say no to that. And you compare that situation, let's say with stereotypical college student, it's two different forms, two different scenarios. One you could definitely talk out of more likely than someone who's trying to survive. Um, so it seems like, so like we said, I think the best way is to talk. You have to befriend people, because something like if, for example, the stereotypical left, there's this, there's some validity to the saying that you can't have like complete tolerance because you can't tolerate intolerance, stuff like that. And you hear some rhetoric again, the extreme side, like eat the rich, stuff like that. But my response to them is like, okay, do you really think, for example, people who voted for Trump are irredeemable? Like, what's your solution? Are you looking for a civil war? Do you think 50%, at least in my country, 50% of the citizens should just be executed? Like what's the end goal? Because this is the language you're talking in. They're so extreme. They're unsavable. Then what do you think is? What do you expect to happen? Yeah, yeah. They're so ridiculous. Yes, like yeah. So, but this is like my starting point because like I try and bring up the most absurd situation. It's like, well, since you obviously don't want that, you have to talk to the other side because there's no other alternative. Yeah. So I guess now, for me, it's trying to communicate this idea that it sucks. This is part of the work, like on each person. Like you need to talk to other people you disagree with. Yeah, yeah, like mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think of like conservatives in my country. Like you said, it's the whole automation thing, getting rid of their jobs. So I could, for example, I could spend time with them and show them, hey, not everyone on the left would say is a horrible person, but what would be a better story to tell them? Like, what solution can I present to them? Like, hey, instead of blaming immigrants, blame automation, but that doesn't provide a solution. It's like, fine, I'll blame automation, but I'm still poor. I still don't have a job. Yeah, yeah, I saw that. That was good. There was one really big cringy moment. I was like, ugh. Yeah, uh, so you might have seen it, George. He's talking with how would you say it? Like a hostage negotiator. Yeah, he spoke with him, and basically this guy, he's recently divorced, and they were kind of going. There was a little bit of batter back and forth, and I'm paraphrasing. He said something to Jordan like, "Oh, so you're telling me what to think now?" And Jordan's like, "Well, I don't know. I just wanted to know how you would get divorced. How's that possible?" Something like that. So it was like a little below the belt. Then he's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, like once you'll see it, you'll know you saw it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what some people were saying too. Like, well, Jordan knows he's this kind of guy, so but oh, okay. So it's like a low blow. It's like if you and your friends are kind of roasting each other, like joking, like making fun of each other. Yeah. So it's when you cross the line, when you throw a critique that's way too far. No, so the vibe, or you can tell from them going back and forth, just talking, that this hostage negotiator, he's like a tough guy, and you can get the idea that he's the kind of person who's okay with jokes like that. Because some people like to exactly. So he's more of a tough guy. He does that kind of joking, but it's not as obvious, at least maybe to some viewers, that he is that kind of guy. Hopefully. Oh, I think the way Jordan replied, it wasn't like a question, it was like a statement, and he just went like, "Oh, that was not her," something like that. I don't remember the exact scenario, but yeah. It helps. Just say it's better. So, something else I wanted to talk about was kind of like the direction of this group. Like, what are the goals? Like, what are we doing here? So I started uploading all the videos. If you can, as you can see them all on YouTube. It's a podcast. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I'll just do some clickbait stuff. Guy from Paris thinks this idea. Yeah. So, tidbit, I definitely made every video because they ask you, is this meant for kids? I put no. None of these videos are meant for kids. Just precautionary, get that out of the way. Yeah, because there's a whole YouTube creators thing. There's a debate with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. We are. So here's the way. I don't know if I've ever said this before, but the way this came about, there's a couple of yeah. Mhm. Yeah, no, I could definitely see that, but but my but my objective. I might have mentioned this before because I posted this across different Jordan Facebook groups, and again, I posted in Jordans as opposed to like liberal activists or conservative activists because I would guess usually Jordan's fans are trying to be more middle ground, trying to find solutions. Um, but I tried to avoid people who have blogs or podcasts. Not to have anything against them, but I wanted to make sure that the point of this is to have a conversation and to find solutions, and that it's genuine. People who are genuine, people who aren't trolls, and those that don't want to just hear themselves talk. Yeah. I saw your YouTube channel. I didn't know about your blog. But you're cool, George. Um, but but yeah, no. Yeah, just play the bell over and over again. No. But what's crazy is that in one of the posts, there's two people who one had a blog and one had a podcast, and I didn't. They were low on the priority list because there were other people like you guys. What's funny is that later on, like an hour or two later, they actually got into like an argument over something silly, and I was like, yeah, yeah, I think I made the right choice. I don't know. It's just like I think one guy was talking about the other one, but he started off very, let's say, sensible. It was kind of a critique, but instead of steelman, he like strawman. They just kept like strawmanning each other a bit, and it was just like, oh man, okay. So that's what I'm like trying to avoid. Um, yeah, because I definitely don't want this to be like its own echo chamber as well. Um, I actually have some people in mind. Yeah. Yeah, because like for example, I think it was 2 weeks ago, when Danny was talking about it got like it was a link between talking about like gender and stuff, and we got into like materialism, like the body versus the soul, and Andrew was pushing back a bit. That's why I like to kind of talk about new topics and see where we disagree, so we could have something different as well. But yeah, I have some people in mind, like maybe bringing in a communist and maybe tell us, just in case we're missing something, tell us your views, and then yeah, just people from different. Oh my god, that's a start. You know what? I need to get like a extreme large size. What's going on here? But something else is that just like trying to figure out what this is and what it isn't. Um, I was kind of hesitant putting this on YouTube and everything because I'm not against getting an audience, having people watch it, but that's definitely not the goal. Like, I'd rather have participants than just spectators. Uh, yeah, yeah, the nuance. Yeah, on a stage. Yeah, and like we mentioned, bringing in like a different person from different perspective, extremely different perspective, that would be beneficial, but not all the time because let's say if you wanted to understand a communist view or an anarcho-capitalist view, there's plenty of videos on YouTube for that. I wanted to like go to the next level because like for example like Jordan's views are becoming, at least I think for his followers, are becoming more understandable, and it's like, okay, well, what do we do next? Like, what's the next step? Like, for example, today's topic. That's good. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, because something else. Good. What are you gonna say, Rebecca? Defend that. Like the whole truth thing with Jordan and Sam. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Struggle. But what do you guys think of this? 'Cause something else I was trying to hone in on, like what this isn't. What or like what can't work is we can't eventually grow to like 20, 30 people in this one session. So something I was thinking is I know there's probably a code or a program out there or whatever. But let's say there's 6 people one day, bam, one session, and then if there's 20, it automatically divides people into groups. So then we could each have our own little discussion each day. And each week it switches people around. So you always have a different group of the same people. Yeah. 6. I think it was like the first one. It was good, but it's just to me, I think an ideal number might be 4 because it's just that balance of because it feels really good for people to contribute, and I feel like that's engagement is very yeah. So that's why exactly. So when it got to 7, right now there's a good 7 of us, but some people are here this week, some people aren't. If there was definitely always 7, I was gonna start doing just like 2 sessions, and I'd be the fourth one, and I'd jump to the next one and be the fourth one again. But yeah. Yeah, so then you just become a spectator. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. but it's like for lack of better words, I'm taking like responsibility for this, but I don't want this to be like my thing. Like if you guys want to talk one week, or just hey guys, we want to talk on Thursday, just meet up and talk. Like oh, but Frank's not here. We're not allowed to talk yet. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of making just like a Facebook group just for this. Okay, cool. Yeah, cause like yeah, it's a balance between keeping the informality and that's like let me get all your emails. So you get like a weekly newsletter. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like if you ever want to unsubscribe, click this link at the bottom. Cause I know like, but that's and this is why I'm hesitant about like making a group because it's like one person just wants to chill out for a couple of weeks, but then they'll keep getting these updates. It becomes that annoying thing that's like I need to get out of here. Yeah, that's fine. And something else, because again, I have some people in mind, and I'm, for lack of better words, like vetting them. Like, are you cool with talking about things? Because if people come on, I don't want them to be like, oh, we can't talk about that. If you're gonna come on, we're gonna be talking about certain things. It's just, are you okay with it? But if you guys have any people in your social circles or friends that you want to bring on here as well, like I trust your judgment. Professional. How's your thing coming on? Good. I mean, that sounds good to me. Yeah, if you have someone in mind. Again, I trust everyone's judgment in here. All right, if you say so. Um, yeah, I think that's it's weird. I think it's always the ones who aren't in power. So when usually I think conspiracy theories were associated with the left, but now it's associated with the right. And I think maybe the idea has been around longer, but it's definitely more prevalent. The only thing is, actually, I gotta get going now. Yeah, yeah, that's good to hear. All right, well, I guess we'll end it there. Until next week.